On Africa24 English, the African Union Journal is presented to you by Bank.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the African Union Journal on Africa24 English, an edition dedicated to the challenges of girls' education in Africa. The member states of the African Union aim to get all children into school by 2025, in line with the Continental Education Strategy. However, disparities persist, with 9 million girls out of school compared with 6 million boys. Girls' enrollment, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, is severely hampered by socio-cultural obstacles, such as early pregnancy, which affects 25% of adolescent girls. Girls' education, a drive for growth, a report by Sarah Yemele.
The member states of the African Union are bound by a continental agenda to get all children into school by 2025. The ambitious project is part of the Continental Strategy on Education for Africa, which aims to put the community at the forefront of achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Only in Africa do disparities persist between girls and boys' school enrollment. 9 million girls aged between 6 and 11 do not attend school, compared with 6 million boys in the same age group, according to official figures.
But still, when we look at the global figure, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, the situation is quite concerning. We have around 500 million children at school age, and out of these, 100 million are not attending school.
Experts reveal that the success of girls' education depends not only on the access to education, but also on the quality of teaching received. The continent is therefore banking on the quality of teachers' training to solve the training employment equation. Africa should recruit 15 million teachers with the aim of training an Africa fit for the 21st century at the primary level.
We have a deficit of teachers. It is estimated by UNESCO that we have around 15 million teachers lacking in our continent. No wonder that you will have overburdened classrooms with overburdened teachers, with probably less qualification in our teachers. And all these are what we call the education crisis.
In Africa, social, cultural, and religious factors hamper the schooling of young girls. On the continent, the scourge of early pregnancy, which affects around 25% of teenage girls, is a major factor in girls dropping out of school. Yet, if all girls complete primary and secondary education, the number of maternal deaths will be reduced by 70%, the number of early marriages will fall by 14%, and maternal and infant mortality will be cut by 50%, according to UNESCO figures.
Reducing child marriage, can impact positively on girls' education. There is a cost of investing in girls' education, and the statistics are there to show that how education, girls' education, can raise, the economic growth of a country.
Africa is said to have 1 billion children by 2050. To meet the challenge of getting them into school, African governments have decided to devote 20% of the national budget to education. Improving education in Africa could reduce the number of poor people by 47 million by 2043 and increase the continent's GDP by $368.4 billion, or 4.3%, according to experts.
As the foundation on which equal opportunities and personal development are built, the acquisition of basic skills, particularly for girls, is fundamental. Sub-Saharan Africa, already facing significant educational poverty, has seen the situation worsen with the COVID-19 pandemic and other shocks. To solve this problem, the African Union and its member states, having declared 2024 as the Year of Education, reiterate their commitment to equitable and universal access to education on the continent. More details in this report.
The African continent accounts for 38% of the world's out-of-school children. Sub-Saharan Africa in particular has the highest rate of school exclusion of any region in the world. More than a fifth of children aged between 6 and 11 do not go to school. This figure rises to a third of young people aged 12 to 14, and almost 60% of young people aged 15 to 17 do not attend school, according to UNESCO. Faced with this situation, the African Union Commissioner for Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Mohamed Hossein, urged education stakeholders, institutions and civil societies concerned to adopt AU strategies and policies to improve education on the continent in order to achieve Africa's inclusive infrastructural, economic and social development.
As you are all aware, this year 2024 had been declared AU Year of Education. And since the launch of this theme, the African Union has intensified advocacy among African countries at a high-level events for the implementation of key transformative actions as set out in its roadmap. Among these is the first Pan-African Conference on Girls and Women Education that rallied more than 400 participants, including official delegations from member states, and came up with a call for action to prioritize women and girls' education in Africa. These advocacy fora will continue throughout the second half of the year.
Bearing in mind the economic implications of weak fundamental learning, former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete suggests that government invest at least 15% of the annual budget in education. Although the situation looks bleak from a sub-Saharan African perspective, Ghana appears to be making some progress with over 70% of children enrolled in primary school. President Nana Akufo-Addo revealed the importance his government attaches to education.
A lot has been done in this country since I came into office. Reform of the curriculum, expansion of infrastructure, motivation of teachers to try and address this question. Obviously, still a lot needs to be done, but we're in a position whereby we can say that Ghana is making very serious efforts to come to grips with this matter. That's the first. The second, of course, is to define the interventions that make sense. The interventions that are doable and that will also have maximum impact.
Investing in women's education is investing in women's economic empowerment and poverty eradication, which is a direct path toward gender equality, according to experts. In line with the African Union's Year of Education 2024, ensuring an inclusive, quality and relevant lifelong learning for girls, women, boys and men in Africa is paramount for the AU and its member states.
We need to prioritize legal frameworks, legislative and policy reforms to guarantee reintegration and ongoing education for all children, especially for girls and adolescents in and out of school, and strengthen implementation of national policies and plans to prevent and respond to school-related gender-based violence, and to provide all learners with information and knowledge about healthy and respectful relationships and engage men and boys.
Achieving equitable and universal access to education on the African continent is part of the African Union's Agenda 2063. The 10 declarations and recommendations of the African Union's first Pan-African Conference on Girls and Women's Education in Africa, spearheaded by the African Union CFR, urges AU member states and education stakeholders to increase their efforts toward improving funding and commitment made at the 2022 Transforming Education Summit on the 2022 African Union Gender Expert Meeting to the Dakar Declaration to guarantee fundamental education and mitigate learning losses during and after the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Africa24 Media Group signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the AfCFTA Secretariat on July 22, 2024. The agreement aims to promote the projects of the African Union's Agenda 2063 and to enhance the value of African businesses in a context where Africa loses more than 75% of its agricultural production every year. Since 2009, Africa24 has been working to change the narrative about Africa reaching over 90 million households and counting more than 8 million online subscribers. The group is committed to producing content aimed at boosting intra-African trade, which has grown by 7.5%, reaching $192 billion by 2023. Learn more in this report. In its 15th year of existence, the leading media group Africa24 has reached a new milestone with the Memorandum of Understanding signing with the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area on July 22, 2024, in a context where Africa loses more than 75% of its agricultural production annually. The agreement aims to promote the priority projects of the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the Made in Africa, as well as to enhance the value of African trading companies.
Africa is trading. I believe as Africans we must be extremely proud because there is no other trade agreement in the world that has captured all of the development aspirations that we want to see. It doesn't exist. Nowhere in the world.
Since 2009, the Africa24 Media Group has taken up part of the challenge of changing the narrative on African news. Today, through its 4 television channels, the Africa24 Media Group reaches over 90 million households and has over 8 million subscribers on its digital platforms. The audiovisual group is committed to producing impactful multimedia content with the aim of strengthening trade between African countries through a closer collaboration with AfCFTA experts.
There's something very positive to tell. And this positive story, Chairman, is that 47 countries have ratified SADC. We are trading. Goods are moving. We were in Nigeria 3 days ago. Nigeria started exporting under SADC. So it's not just about a coup d'etat or Sudan. There's more happening on our continent, and you are the voice that will express that positivity of what is happening on our continent.
Since the establishment of the AfCFTA, intra-African trade has grown by 7.5%, reaching $192 billion in 2023. This performance is regularly reported by the Africa24 Media Group, especially through the African Union Journal, broadcast in French and English since January 2022. This program is an essential point of the partnership between Africa24 Media Group and the African Union since March 27, 2019.
We must not take that for granted. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, there are many others. But you are a true African voice that speaks, articulates our vision as Africans.
The AfCFTA represents a historic opportunity to transform African economies and strengthen the continent's integration on the world stage. African governments' ambition is to increase intra-African trade to 26% of their total trade volume by 2040. Let's now take a look at the news in our regions. First, African Union raises $392 million to support African Peace Fund. In West Africa, ECOWAS invests $13 million in the fight against terrorism and humanitarian interventions. In East Africa, the authorities announced the opening of a one-stop border post at Luahaha.
In Africa, 85% of the continent's 1.3 billion inhabitants live in countries in conflict or neighboring countries affected by post-conflict situation, according to the African Development Bank. To reverse this trend, the African Union, which has stepped up its effort to promote peace through preventive action, on July 20, 2024, on the sidelines of the 6th African Union Midterm Coordination Meeting in Accra, Ghana, mobilized the sum of $384 million for the African Peace Fund, or 96% of the initial target of $400 million, entirely from AU member states. The AU Peace Fund is part of the African Peace and Security Architecture alongside the Peace and Security Council, the African Standby Force, the Military Staff Committee, the Continental Early Warning System, and the Panel of the Wise. Following the announcement by the Economic Community of West African States that had allocated at least $13 million to effort to combat terrorism in frontline states and to strengthen humanitarian efforts in the region, in its annual report to the bloc's achievement and challenges to the African Union's 6th Midterm Coordination Meeting in Accra, Ghana, the Nigerian head of state and chairman of the ECOWAS Assembly of Head of State and Government revealed that the West African Regional Institution was exploring other funding options for a $2.6 billion standby force. In 2023, more than 3,500 incidents of terrorist attacks were recorded in the ECOWAS region. These attacks claimed more than 7,000 victims, while a total of 4.8 million people faced food insecurity. 2.4 million citizens were internally displaced, and almost 9,000 schools had to close. The East African Community Secretariat, Kenya and Uganda, have committed to upgrading the Luahala border post, located on the common border between the two EAC partner states, to a one-stop border post. This project is part of the effort to reduce congestion at the Busai and Malaba one-stop border post. The transformation of the Luahala border post into one-stop border post aims to streamline custom procedures, reduce clearance times for goods and vehicles, and strengthen collaboration between Kenya and Uganda border agencies. The initiative demonstrates the EAC's commitment to fostering and promoting cross-border cooperation between the two countries. By implementing the concept of a single-access border post at the Luahala border, the two countries are set to create a more conducive environment for trade and commerce in the region.
Sustainable and equitable development in Africa is at the heart of Germany's cooperation strategy with Africa. The German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development works in partnership with African countries to create 25 million jobs a year. Germany has invested significantly in sustainable infrastructure development and green hydrogen projects in Ivory Coast. German-African cooperation focuses on 6 areas, including gender equality and good governance. Philip Akwa sheds some light on this.
German-African cooperation is based on a strategy aimed at promoting sustainable and equitable development in Africa. Working with 54 countries on the African continent, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, has refocused its efforts on creating an environment conducive to the creation of 25 million jobs annually, with the ambition of meeting the needs of the largest generation of young people. I would like to see how committed we are to investment in this area, and I asked the minister if we could have even more investment from the private sector. On July 17, 2024, Germany ended its military cooperation with Niger, which has been governed by a transitional government since July 2023. This decision is part of Germany's broader commitment to strengthening peace and security through integrated approaches combining humanitarian aid, development cooperation, and peace promotion. As far as Russia's role in Mali and now Niger is concerned, we realized that we were not in a position to continue the support role we had previously assumed in the area of security, policing and training within the UN MINUSMA mission, since the reliability that existed previously was no longer there. Germany is also targeting investments in economic and social capacity building. In 2023, for example, Germany invested significantly in sustainable infrastructure and energy transition projects in Côte d'Ivoire, including the development of a new green hydrogen industry. In addition, initiatives have been launched to improve women's access to credit and support female entrepreneurs with a view to promoting inclusive growth.
La Côte d'Ivoire dispose aujourd'hui.
Côte d'Ivoire today has one of the most successful economies in West Africa. Although the challenges of poverty and youth unemployment persist, we have of course also talked about them. Now this young and dynamic development is also taking place. We're not surprised that the number of German companies in Côte d'Ivoire has tripled in 3 years.
Multiplié par 3 en 3 ans.
All in all, the BMZ's Africa strategy focuses on 6 key areas: sustainable economic development, the fight against poverty and hunger, health and the prevention of pandemics, feminist development policy and gender equality, the rule of law and good governance, and peace and security. With Africa's population expected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050, Germany aims to establish equitable partnerships and contribute to a social and ecological transformation of the African continent.
The first East African Community Regional Conference on Education, commemorating the African Union's Year of Education, will be held from the 12th to the 15th of August in Arusha, Tanzania, under the conference theme, Educating a Fit African for the 21st Century, Collective Action for Quality, Inclusive and Lifelong Learning in East Africa. This event, inspired by the AU Year of Education and organized by the East African Community and its partners, will bring together stakeholders from across the education sector to discuss best practice, strengthen networks, and reaffirm commitment to improve education for all children in the region. The first African Urban Forum will be held from the 4th to the 6th of September 2024 at the Adwa Victory Memorial in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Organized by the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the African Union Commission, in cooperation with the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the forum, whose theme is Sustainable Urbanization for Africa's Transformation Agenda 2063, is a platform for exchange on the opportunities and challenges of urbanization in Africa. The aim is to unleash its potential. The 6th edition of the African Prosperity Conference will be held in Kampala, Uganda, from the 25th to the 27th of September 2024 under the theme Green Economy, E-commerce and Integration of Services. A biennial event, the African Prosperity Conference brings together business owners, government representatives, financial experts, and private sector leaders to explore business opportunities and foster meaningful collaboration. Co-organized by the Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the 2024 edition of the African Prosperity Conference offers an opportunity for women-owned and youth-led businesses to connect with resource providers, government officials, corporate buyers, and business professionals.
President of the National Assembly of the Seychelles since October 2020, Roger Mancienne has also headed SADC's Parliamentary Forum since 2022. At 76, he is fully committed to implementing SADC resolutions, particularly in the face of security challenges in Cabo Delgado, Mozambique, and Eastern DRC. His mandate focuses on crucial issues such as agriculture, free access to land, youth unemployment, women's empowerment, institutional and electoral reform. His profile with Mildred Yamu.
Speaker of the National Assembly of his country, Seychelles, since October 28, 2020, Roger Mancienne is at the head of the Southern African Development Community SADC Parliamentary Forum. In 2022, he took over from former Speaker of the National Assembly of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Christophe Mboso Kodiapwanga. Passionate about respect for human rights and liberal economic reforms, Roger Mancienne proves to be the man for the job in a sub-region in search of complete integration and subject to security challenges, particularly in the Cabo Delgado province, Mozambique, and Eastern DRC.
At a time when various studies show that citizens across the SADC region consistently express a desire for greater political stability and economic opportunity, the strategic plan represents our proactive response to these aspirations from our region.
At 76, Roger Mancienne has made the implementation of the resolutions of the SADC Parliamentary Forum at national levels his main objective. The Sub-Regional Parliamentary Forum, under the leadership of its president, legislates on various issues such as the prospects of the agricultural sector, the fight against youth unemployment, women empowerment, the promotion of electoral reforms, energy transition, and climate resilience.
The imperative to transition to renewable energy sources cannot be overstated, given the pressing challenges of climate change, energy security, and sustainable development for our region. We must therefore find ways to leverage and maximize our renewable energy wealth to advance an inclusive, equitable, and economically, socially, and environmentally beneficial energy revolution. The transition to renewable energy is a strategic imperative for the SADC region. It offers a pathway to sustainable development, energy security, and economic resilience.
Roger Mancienne's mandate comes at a time when the SADC Parliamentary Forum is initiating profound institutional reforms. The parliamentary institution is transitioning towards the establishment of the SADC Parliament, whose ambition is to strengthen parliamentary action in the construction of democracy and common values within the sub-region. This institutional transformation is based on the independence of the parliamentary chamber, comments Honorable Roger Mancienne.
This assembly is also a call for each one of us in our member parliaments to renew our commitment to the mission of SADC-PF, which is to act as a representative body and a bridge between government and the people that we serve at regional level.
The political involvement of the president of the SADC Parliamentary Forum dates back to 1971. Founding member of the Seychellois Party, member of the ruling coalition in his country, the Seychelles National Party, Roger Mancienne has always been keen to defend the voice of the people, a principle that continues to guide his political action at national and regional levels.
We have come to the end of this edition of the African Union Journal. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching and stay tuned for more programs on Africa24 English.
On Africa24 English, the African Union Journal is presented to you by Afreximbank.